Okay, so we'll do an iCue session, and this is the typical iCue board. On the top two quadrants, you have the workspace, the positives and the negatives. Workspace is all the words in that can be measured, that can be observed. And the bottom left quadrant, you have headspace, which is all the words related with feelings and emotions and choices and compromises that we have to make at the individual level. And then in the group space, we have everything in that is connected with people and relationships and group behavior and so on. Yeah. So and in the middle, we always put this one brain, three minds as a reminder that we are embodied beings. We are not brain centric. We come from our head as much as we come from our heart and from our gut, which is the whole body thinks, the whole body makes decisions, which is based on not just religion, mythology, anthropology, social science, psychology, but also neurosciences. So here we're going to map a story now. And who's going to tell a story? Gita, would you like to tell a story?
I told a story last time.
Okay, and would you like to tell a story?
Okay. Yes, okay, I'll give it a shot.
So what we'll do is, I will, just for the sake of people who have seen it firsthand, what we do is we put the name of people who attend this iCue session, and we put the date and the place. Today is the 2nd of June, and we are online, of course. And at the end of it, we can take a picture of this and we can file it if we need it to. So that becomes an evidence that a conversation has taken place, whether it's a risk assessment, incident investigation, whatsoever. Okay, let's start.
Okay, it's a very short story,
okay.
But it's about a lovely conversation that I had with a girl who was working at the place that I was staying in Bali. Her name was Pee, and she was a very helpful, lovely girl. And one day, while I was waiting for some laundry to be returned, I just had a nice chat with her. And I asked her about her life and what was happening and how she was enjoying her job. And she was telling me about one of the other employees, Ryan, who was a lovely guy who was mentoring her. And she was really excited about working for this company and being mentored by Ryan. And I said to her, oh, this is great. You're obviously doing really, really well. If you continue, working like this, you're going to be a manager like Ryan. And so I was coming totally from my world and my perspective, thinking, oh, this is a great opportunity. You can move forward, you can get promotion, you can run the company. And then she just looked at him and she goes, oh, no, I don't want that. She was like really excited. She really excitedly told me that she was getting married next year and that she was just so delighted with, her fiance, and she was so excited to be getting married and having a family. And it really struck me that when I was speaking to her, my reactions were from my thinking and my world, oh, you can get a better job and you can move forward. And she was just almost shocked that I would think she would want that. And she just looked at me, she goes, oh no, my son, I don't want that at all. It's almost, I'm much more lucky than that. I've got a much better future ahead of me because I've got a wonderful fiance. I'm getting married next year, and and she will obviously be the best mother, the best wife, and have a wonderful family. And that would be the leading role that she would be playing in her life, which was amazing and wonderful. And I just felt amazing, love and joy for her. And I felt almost embarrassed at my kind of shallow reaction that I'd actually said to her, oh, you could get a better job. And then I felt really, really, I just felt stupid. And I thought, oh, God, Anne, how ignorant that, you would think that that would be a better option than the life that she had planned for herself. And I thought it was a very humbling experience. And it was a beautiful kind of lesson to me that, what people value in life is very different and very special. And it's important to really get into someone's world, to connect with them authentically and to understand where they're coming from. And that this 23-year-old girl had so much to teach me at 51. And I thought, wow, I wish I had had that head on my shoulders when I was 23. So yeah, it's a short story, but I just thought it was kind of epitomized cultural differences. And I don't know, it was a lovely conversation, and it was nice to get an insight into her life and her world. And she told me a lot about Balinese culture and the different religions and different customs, and it was just a beautiful conversation. And that's my short story.
Great. This is, so just, yeah. How do I say? What you gave me just now is a lesson in anthropology. This is so powerful. This is precisely the kind of mistakes that the early anthropologists made when they first went to native countries of people from First Nations to study them. And the mistake that we make is that we're not really trying to understand their worldview, what's their normal. Instead, we try to impose our worldview, our values, our normal onto them. And so that becomes a source of frustration, that why are they not seeing things like me, right? And the easiest way to deal with that is to go back into the mode of power and control, and to try and tackle these issues through systems and processes. But that was a big flaw in the early anthropology, until we came to a point where we started to realize that understanding culture, which is anthropology, is not really about imposing your normal onto other people, but it is trying to understand their normal, what is their worldview, which is very, very difficult. It's very easy to say, it's very difficult to practice. What happens is that when we see something that comes as a surprise, for example, in this case, you were talking about, this woman has suddenly found a mentor, and in your view, this is incredibly good for promotion and progress in life, and almost missing the point that her metaphor of what is valuable to her is completely different from what your metaphor is. But in that moment, what you experienced was humility, a moment of aha, to say, my worldview, as you very rightly said in your own word, was you're embarrassed at your shallow reaction and you felt stupid. This is humility. I would actually circle it as humility. This is a lesson in humility, which is missing in many safety culture audits, and so what you felt, biologically speaking, from an evolutionary perspective, if you read the work of Damasio, is your homeostasis is lost. Your life processes are become imbalanced, because when you are shocked, in your own metaphor, you sweat from your palms, or you feel low blood pressure, or your respiratory system starts to enhance, and so on. And the first thing to do is to take control of your life processes, to reduce that. And we do that not just by taking control of the life processes, but also taking control of the situation, of the conversation, which is, oh yeah, I know where this is going. I know what this is about. And this is going back to the idea that I want to impose my normal onto yours. And so we learn nothing at all from that situation, rather than leaving that feeling of discomfort, homeostasis as you experience, which is the out of control experience, to stay for a little bit longer, which is exactly what you did. You took stock of that situation. You let yourself experience that discomfort, and that dissonance and discomfort helped you to understand the worldview of the other person. So I think that to me, that is so powerful, that you and what powerful words. And you felt connected. What you started to realize, it was a humbling experience, because you saw what people value in life, which is obviously not what you thought people value, and you felt the connection authentically. That was the gift, as we say in iCue. So I would mark that as a gift. So what is it that people are giving us without us asking them? These are beautiful gifts. And when you start to, you can go a little bit deeper. If I was questioning you, I would say, so what do you mean when you say what people value in life? And you felt connected authentically, because there's always a lot more in that gift that we can question and understand. So beautiful conversation. Any questions you want to ask anyone?
No, I was just thinking about Rob's way of addressing how to suspend the agenda. That somehow this is the example, because we all know it, and what a beautiful story. And I think we all sort of found ourselves in that situation, that we pull upon our worldview of this is the truth of how to live, and then we get so surprised. And I just kept thinking about really entering a conversation without the agenda, and how hard it really is, because it's so deeply integrated somehow.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that it's visual. The suspension of the agenda is so visual here, because the moment you let go of what you know, you're already in the zone. And you can see very little about this conversation is in the workspace. The moment you step down, it's all about listening and learning what other people are feeling, what they are experiencing, and being in relationship with them. So the whiteboard actually makes it very, very visible. What happens typically if you do an incident investigation or a risk assessment, is that this area gets too populated. The workspace area, the physical stuff gets very, very quickly populated, but very little is actually we capture in this area. So what a telling conversation of learning.
Can I just add to what you've just said there, Geeta, about suspending the agenda? Because without knowing I was doing this, as soon as I gauged her reaction, and she told me with such delight and excitement, about her, upcoming marriage and everything, I immediately knew that I had assumed things and said something from my world. So I immediately kind of almost brushed that away and put it under the carpet. I thought, oh God, that's embarrassing that I even thought or said that. And then I just prompted her to elaborate on the different details that she was giving me about what she was so excited about. And so just by gently asking her to elaborate, she was then going into the religious ceremony, and it was amazing. She just opened up, like it was just like a flower blooming, and she just gave me so much. And it was just such a beautiful insight into her world. So instead of adding any detail from my world, our world, by just getting her to elaborate on the bits that she seemed most excited about, she just offered up so much information that it was just beautiful. It was wonderful. So yeah, it was just a lovely conversation.
Yeah, and you know, there's one more thing, Gita, from what you said, that people often think that suspending agenda is like not having an agenda or leaving your agenda. Suspending agenda is neither of them. It's just what you call about predisposition. But in very simple words, it means that am I willing to, by default, just park aside what I have in mind for 5 minutes and just listen to this person? You know, of course, you meet somebody for an hour and you must have a purpose. But most of the times what happens is your agenda is blocking you to listen to the other person. So if you keep aside by default that agenda, just suspend it for 5 minutes through predisposition, through practice, you listen to so much more than what you would typically listen to. I also wanted to, of course, you know, please feel free to ask a question, but I see one particular area of a dialectic, of a tension, which is between your reaction and her experience. And I think that was a wonderful dialectic to capture. So my reaction versus hers. So a dialectic is often denoted by 2 arrows because it is pulling us in 2 different directions. Also, and you repeated some words like getting married, lovely. Use the word lovely at least 3 times. You use the word conversation at least twice. That's why I ticked on it. And when somebody is repeatedly saying certain things, we must pay more attention to those words because their unconscious mind is trying to tell us something. Any more questions from anyone?
I would be interested, Nipun. I can't read the words on the board, but I'd be interested to see how you've mapped that story. You know what I mean? I can't read the words from here, but
shall we go through that very quickly? And
yeah,
that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Because that's the bit that I'm missing, is seeing how this is captured, and that would really help me.
Bali, Peki, laundry, and okay, we'll talk about going to be a manager, but these are all tangible words. These are words that cannot, you know, there's very little room for interpretation. Yeah, Bali is Bali, Peki is the name, laundry is laundry. There's not much to dispute, although one could argue there is. But the metaphorical disputes or the interpretation actually lies more in these 2 spaces, although it doesn't to some extent. But what is important to understand here is that these are all words of feelings and emotions of an individual person. Yeah, these are words that are more about relational aspects of what it means to be a human being in relation to other people or the environment. It's all about relationships. So when you say you had a humbling experience, that to me is a very headspace word. You know, it's something that you experience in your own personal unconscious, in your own individual experience. Then you talk about enjoying. So I was, you know, you were talking about her and you were saying how much she was enjoying her job. So the expression of enjoying is actually a very headspace thing. You know, somebody's enjoying, it's an emotion, right? Enjoying. You try that my reaction was that I was almost shocked, which is almost, you know, undisputed that this is something that is happening in your own space. Yeah, you were embarrassed at this shallow reaction and you felt stupid. So it's something very individual, something very personal that is happening in your world, right? So this is all very, very individual. Now we go to the group space. You had a lovely conversation. There is no way you can have a conversation without another person. You know, the essence of a conversation is to be in relationships. It was a lovely conversation. So it's relational, it's experiential. You have a guy who's mentoring her, right? This is also relational, right? You talk about promotion and progress. This is a value that we give, a standard that we create for people to progress. So it's It's more like a norm, a practice, a standard. So it's obviously so you rise above a certain standard and you are promoted. So it's something. There's something. There is a common agreement about when people get promoted. So it cannot be one person's choice. So when you see words like promotion, progress, discipline, punish, these are normative words. So they come into the space of, there's no way you can discipline somebody, you can punish them, you can help them progress without having some kind of a standard. So these words sit in the group space, right? There's a norm there, right? Somebody's getting married is obviously a group space word. Having a family, having a wonderful fiance, because it's all in relationship. It's all in relationship, right? Then we go to what people value in life. It cannot be an individual thing. It's always group. It's always relational. It's always group space. You felt connected authentically with her, yeah. And then you came to know about there were different religions, different cultures. So now we are talking in group space. So that's the basis for. But what we got to understand is that this is not an exact science. Like decision making is not an exact science. We need to do iCue like we paint a picture. So at this stage, at the learning stage, even if you put some words here and other words there, because you're still learning how to listen, or even there, it doesn't matter, as long as you have the words there. Slowly, as you listen, you will start to listen more. You will start to listen to pay attention to what to listen more to. It comes with time. It takes a bit of practices.
Thank you.
So just to recap, objects, sensations, things that can be measured, they are tangible. These are all things that lie in the positive and the negative part of workspace. In the negative part, we normally associate it with things that have gone wrong and that can be measured. They can somehow be sensed through our five senses. All that stays in the negative. Headspace is all about emotions and feelings, choices and compromises, everything to do with personal unconscious, everything to do with an individual experience. Then we move into group space where we talk about relationships and group behaviors. Relationship not just with another person, relationship also with the environment. And it's all, yeah. Does it make sense?
It does. Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I wrote down when Anne said understanding where we come from. And I wrote it in the group space, but actually I was thinking this is like her own insights to this, isn't it? So maybe that would be more in the headspace. Understanding
where we come from is an expression of history. History always goes in group space.
Yeah.
At some stage, we will do the culture cloud together. The culture cloud really helps you to listen much more in this space. History, symbols, myths, metaphors. You cannot have a metaphor as an individual person. Metaphors are shared culturally. So Apple, for example, is a metaphor for technology for the young generation. Apple is a metaphor for fruit for the old generation. Anything else? Pedro, you're very quiet. You have to break the silence.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Yeah. So last couple of days, I'm tired. But yeah, I was just thinking, it's a deceptively simple story what you just told us, and if we go back, surely less than a century.
Can you bring it close? Yeah.
Hang on. I can actually get you.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Much better.
Yeah, much better.
If you go in our own world, if you go back surely less than a century, people will actually have the reaction you just experienced or you described in the opposite direction, which is the woman who would be pursuing a career or how would have that perspective of flourishing in life would be the object of shock for others. And it gives you a perspective of how things, particularly in that group space, those norms can so radically change.
Yeah, this is so good what you said, because here is a clash between two different worldviews. You know, promotion and progress versus getting married, having family, and wonderful fiance. How interesting is that? Beautiful. Excellent. Great.